So I'm going to go here, add a new login method, HYPR mobile app, allow camera access, scan the QR code, successfully paired. So at this point now I can see my Freddie Freeman account that exists here. Additionally, I can go into the hamburger menu and look at my passkeys, and I can see that I've got a Freddie Freeman passkey. I'm going to demo this in Safari. Let's see, I was already logged in as somebody else. I'm going to go here and click sign in. In sign in options, I'm going to tap that and select the first one, which is face fingerprint and security key, which is the passkey option. Once I click that, I'm presented with the HYPR credential provider to sign in for Freddie Freeman and hit continue. Face ID, and I've successfully logged in. So at this point now, I could access all of my apps that would be protected behind Intra. Now I'm going to go to the workstation. I'm going to go to the HYPR app, tap the QR scanner, click the scan QR icon here on the computer, Face ID, and I'm logged in with my account. Hello, in this video, I'm going to be talking about HYPR Enterprise Passkey deployment. In this video, I've got some prerequisites and some things that are already set up, and I'm going to talk about specifics for the HYPR Passkey deployment. So the prerequisites that I already have is I've already got an Intra tenant. And we can see I'm using the Dodgers as an example here. I'm going to create some new users as part of this, but as a foundation, I've got Dave Roberts that exists. And I've also already got my Windows machine that is joined to that domain. So it's joined with that Dave Roberts account. Additionally, I have the HYPR Control Center that's already been set up and configured with the prerequisite feature flags. And I've got a list showing exactly what feature flags those are, and the HYPR app that's a brand new install from the App Store. I'm going to be showcasing this on iOS, but the same works for Android. And in my other series, I've got Android specific items on here as well. So what I'm going to be going through as part of this is I'm going to go through all the configuration that's required within Intra ID, creating that new app registration. I am going to link that into HYPR via an integration here. Additionally, I'm going to talk about HYPR Passkeys and enabling that setting inside of the iOS app, setting the Windows configuration to enable FIDO2 security key login, and installing HYPR Desktop. And at the end of this, I'm going to showcase logging in to web and workstation from that mobile device in a completely passwordless onboarding scenario within Intra ID. So with that being said, let's get started. On all of these, I've got an additional video series that shows each of these as modules. I'm going to kind of try to breeze through this with the goal of doing this relatively quickly. If all goes well, I'm going to try to do this in one take as well. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Azure app, my Intra app registrations, and I'm going to create a new registration. I'm going to name this Passkey, and I'm going to go ahead and configure this web redirect URL. Okay. So with that being done, I'm going to go through and do the API. I'm kind of bouncing around. I'm going to do the API permissions and then do the client secret later. These API permissions are required for our application to function, and I'm going to go through and add these Microsoft Graph API permissions. I'm going to start with the application permissions and add those permissions and grant consent, and then I'm going to add the delegated permissions. Add those permissions and grant consent. And by the time this is done, you should have those 12 permissions that line up with these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and those 4 there. So 8 application permissions, 4 delegated permissions. Additionally, I have done this already, but I'm going to go through and show where I did it. Authentication methods, policy, passkey, and this needs to be enabled. The other item, and I did this one in the very start of this, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it. So authentication within the app, we should have this web redirect URI to native client. That should be everything that I need so far. I'm going to get that client secret once I have the HYPR one so that I can just copy it over. So with that, I'm going to bounce into HYPR integrations, and now I'm going to wire this one in. So I'm going to go into HYPR integrations. I'm in standard mode, clicking over to integrations, add new integration, Microsoft Intra ID, native Intra ID login experience. I'm going to name this Passkey, and then I'm going to copy over my information from that integration. So the tenant ID, tenant ID is here. Client ID is this application client ID. And then I'm going to go ahead and generate that client secret now. So I'm going to go in here, certificates and secrets. I'm going to add a new client secret. I'll name it Passkey, copy that value, and paste that in here. The certificate and private key are an alternate method, and they can be left blank. All right. I'm also going to go ahead and enable that integration. Do a little cleanup here. So I did the intra ID configuration, the hyper integration, hyper passkeys I'm going to talk about now in the hyper app. I'm going to go in and I'm actually going to go outside of the hyper app and I'm going to go to settings, general, autofill and passwords, and I'm going to enable hyper passkeys there. We get the alert that that was enabled and it can now be used. In the Windows configuration, I'm going to edit this via the registry, and this enables FIDO2 security key login. And I'm going to do that via regedit as an administrator. And that registry key is in HKey local machine, software, Microsoft policies. Yeah, there's policies. Am I in the right key? HKey local, software, policies, software. I was wrong. Software policies, and then Microsoft. There we go. I'm going to add a new, let's see, I'm going to right click here. I'm going to add a new key and I'm going to name it FIDO. And then within there, I'm going to add a new keyword, enable FIDO device. And again, in my longer video series, I've got the why behind why I'm doing this and what it does. So that is enabled. So I should be good there. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my notes here. So Hyper Passkeys is enabled, Windows configuration is enabled, and now I'm going to get Hyper Desktop. So that Hyper Desktop I'm going to get from the login settings. It does need to point at the integration here. I'm going to download that desktop client. That should show up in my downloads folder. And I'm going to import that onto my Windows machine, upload that to my Windows machine, extract that. I'm going to copy these onto the desktop for easy access and then run this. So this will automatically pick up that integration configuration and install Hyper Desktop. I'm going to go ahead and restart my machine. And the last thing that I have to do is, so my integration that I named Passkey, I need to link that back to my web RP app. I'm going to go to advanced mode to do this. I can see all my fresh. Yeah, there it is. I can see all my application names. In this instance, I'm going to use the default web application to register to web. In the workstation settings, I need to link that workstation app, which is Passkey, and save that. Let me just do a double check and make sure that's saved, and it did. And I'm going to go back into standard mode and check on my Windows machine. All right, so this looks good. Sign-in options, I do have the security key there, which is what I enabled with the Windows configuration. I do have the scan to login, which is what I'm going to use here in a second. So in order to, after having deployed that and configured everything properly, now I'm going to test this and make sure everything works. In order to do that, see, I'm going to grab my, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and create a new user, and I'm going to name it Freddie Freeman, create that user. Intra's got a weird thing where you have to refresh this for that user to show up. So I'm going to do that. Oh man, signed me out. There it is. And I'm going to copy that user principal name and I'm going to go in and create a registration for Freddie. So I'm going to go to advanced mode. I'm going to go into the web application, generate a magic link, paste in Freddie Freeman, and then we will now start the demo portion of this. So I'm going to go here, add a new login method, hyper mobile app, allow camera access, scan the QR code, successfully paired. So at this point now I can see my Freddie Freeman account that exists here. Additionally, I can go into the hamburger menu and look at my passkeys, and I can see that I've got a Freddie Freeman passkey. I'm going to demo this in Safari. Let's see, I was already logged in as somebody else. I'm going to go here and click sign in. In sign-in options, I'm going to tap that and select the first one, which is face fingerprint and security key, which is the passkey option. Once I click that, I'm presented with the hyper credential provider to sign in for Freddie Freeman and hit continue. Face ID, and I've successfully logged in. So at this point now, I could access all of my apps that would be protected behind Intra. Now I'm going to go to the workstation. I'm going to go to the Hyper app, tap the QR scanner, click the scan QR icon here on the computer. Face ID, and I'm logged in with my account. So this shows deploying Hyper Enterprise Passkey. We can see these are the prerequisites: having an Intra tenant, joining that Windows computer to the Intra tenant, configuring Hyper Control Center with all the required feature flags, downloading the Hyper app, configuring Intra to be able to talk to Hyper, configuring Hyper to be able to talk to Intra, enabling passkeys in the hypermobile app, enabling FIDO2 security keys in Windows, and then installing Hyper Desktop. Once you have all that, you're able to do all of this really and more.